Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my spring reading wrap up. It's been a few months since I've updated you on all the books I've been reading this year, so I thought I would include my March, April, May reading wrap-ups together as a spring reading wrap-up, and maybe I will do this seasonally and that would be easier for me, especially since I'm not reading the volume of books that I have in years past. We are in a new location. These are the bookshelves I built with you guys in a video. I will link that up in the cards in case you missed it. I had so much fun filming that video and now I just can't stop staring at my new bookshelves. Enough rambling, let's hop in to all the books I read this spring, starting in March, obviously. The first book I finished in March is Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. This had been sitting on my shelf for way too long and I thought it was going to be another favorite. In this book, we're following Macy and Elliot, and they met when they were younger, and Macy's kind of cabin was located close to Elliot's home, so they would only see each other on holidays and summer vacations, and they had this super sweet childhood love and like growing into teens. And we have a then and now timeline. We know something happened, but we don't know what. And I was so invested. They run into each other at a coffee shop now that they're both adults. Macy is either a doctor or a nurse at a hospital. Like, they live very different and busy lives. And I was so invested. But the twist, the reason why they didn't speak for like 11 plus years, I was like, yeah, I wouldn't speak to you ever again either. So I was absolutely loving this book, so invested in their romance, especially the like when they were younger, the then chapters. I loved so much, but then the twist completely ruined it for me and I gave this book 2 stars. I then read Iron Kissed by Patricia Briggs. I stumble over that every single time. This is the 3rd book in the Mercy Thompson series. This is an older paranormal series and it's definitely feeling a bit dated, but they're very short and entertaining reads. Each book feels very like episodic. They do kind of refer to things that happened in previous books, but each book contains its own plot and thing that they are trying to do. We have Mercy Thompson, who is a mechanic, and she's also a walker. There are all of the paranormal creatures in here. She's living with a werewolf, she's friends with a vampire, there's fae, all sorts of things. And I find these very entertaining. I gave this 3 stars. This isn't a series that I feel I will hold on my shelves once I finished reading it, but they are a good time while I have them. Then I read The Wives by Taryn Fisher. This is a thriller in which we are following Thursday and her husband Seth, and her husband has 2 other wives that she knows nothing about. They have this schedule arranged. She's called Thursday, so she sees Seth on Thursday, and she only agreed to this arrangement because she loves Seth so much, and he already had his other wives when he met Thursday, and she was just so enthralled with him that she agreed to progress. He agreed to divorce one of his other wives to legally marry Thursday. It's just this whole mess. This book is less than 300 pages. I gave it 4 stars. I hadn't binged a book like I binged this in a long time. There were so many twists and turns. I was completely enthralled and like needed to know what the hell was going on in here. This book gave me whiplash, and there definitely are some trigger warnings that you may want to look up in here. There were some darker topics touched on. This was good. The last book I read in March was King's Cage by Victoria Aveyard, but in May I read War Storm in the same series. So I'm going to talk about these together. These are books 3 and 4 in the Red Queen series, and I gave both of these 3 stars. I liked them. I had a good enough time, but they both felt really drawn out. Really, I think that this series could have been a trilogy, and the plot points that happen in these 2 books could have been 1 book, and I probably would have enjoyed that more. I really loved Red Queen and the second book, but it kind of went a bit down for me. I still had fun, but just Warstorm didn't have the best conclusion either. This is an older YA fantasy series. It has a class system where the reds are the lower class peasants, the workers, and then the silvers are the royalty or upperclassmen, and the silvers have magical abilities. But the series kicks off where Mayor Barrow is working in the castle as a servant or slave, I guess, and something happens and in which she shows that she has power. And they're like, how is this possible? She is a red. We took her from the slums to come work in our castle. You know, cut her open. She's for sure a red. And we kind of go from there. Yeah, like I said, the War Storm did not have the best conclusion. That, like, I just didn't find it that satisfying. There is a 4.5, which is like a collection of short stories, but I've just decided I'm not interested. I'm ready to let this series go, but I am glad to have finally finished it. In April, I read Heat of the Everflame by Penn Cole. This is the 3rd book in this romantasy series, and this book was over 1,000 pages, and I gave it 2 stars. We are following DM, who is a healer, and she gets wrapped into like the court politics, court intrigue, because she is brought in to replace her mother, who was a healer to the king. She is trained as a healer as well. They figure we'll just take her in and she can take care of the king while he is very ill. She's kind of playing double agent before the royals and then this essentially like a terrorist group within the kingdom who are trying to overthrow the Descended, which the Descended are descendants of gods. So they do have power and they are obviously the royalty and the upperclassmen, whereas mortals are lowerclassmen. The first book was fun. The second book, I was like, I really like our side characters and the court intrigue, but as far as the plot goes, I was like, plot, where are you? And DM, as a female main character, I have never hated a main character more. Aside from ones that you're supposed to hate. We're supposed to like DM, and I absolutely hate her. She's so impulsive and dumb. Sorry. She makes the stupidest decisions, and that is how the plot moves forward or how we find out things, and it just annoys me to no end. There was a quote that, this is my review of the 3rd book. There's a quote out of the book that says, "Logic and procedure were never my strong suits. I was more of a run fast and wing it kind of girl." Yeah, to the detriment of this series. She doesn't know where she's going and she'll just run somewhere and be lost. Or there's so many examples. The next book doesn't even come out until 2026, and I'm hoping to have removed it from my brain by then. I won't be continuing that series. Thank goodness after that I read Devour the Dark by Nikki St. Crow. This is the 2nd book in the Devour series, which follows the Never King series. This is fantasy romance novellas. They are more on the darker side, and they are retellings of Peter Pan. So they are set in Neverland. In the Devourer series, we are following the Crocodile and Captain Hook and Wendy Darling. And these are so much fun for me. I gave it 4 stars. As with this whole series, I leave these books wanting more. They are just like between 150 and 250 pages, like in that range for all of these books. And each time I wish there was more. Nikki St. Crow does do a good job at keeping the pacing with these shorter books, but I do just love the characters so much that I wish these books were longer. I will say we saw a lot of some characters in this installment that we got so much of in the Never King series that I wish we could have. The focus doesn't need to be on them anymore. I wish we saw less of them. They had their time, they had their 4 books, that I really wanted to focus on these other characters. I then read Reckless by Lauren Roberts. This is the second book in the Powerless trilogy. This trilogy is YA romantasy. We are following Payton. Yes. I want to call her Peyton with a T. Anyways, Payton Gray, who lives in squalor in the slums, and she gets roped into this competition in the first book. Payton does not have special abilities, but in this world, if you are found to be normal, you are killed, because they are concerned that you will lessen the powerful by intermingling, if you get what I'm saying. I obviously don't want to spoil the first book. I did also read Powerful, the novella, and ate that up, gave it 5 stars. I did give this book 4 stars. I can see why a lot of people did not enjoy this nearly as much. The plot was moving at a snail's pace. The plot has left the chat in this book, but I still ate it up. We have a bit of a cat and mouse situation happening in here, and we had this like hate to love, to hate to love, like this back and forth with our main characters. That was so good. But then the ending, I was like, how? What are we doing here, Miss Lauren Roberts? So I really do need to pick up Fearless ASAP. I finished another series that thank God it's over. I finished Night of the Goddess, which is book 4 of the Blood of Fate series by Briar Bolin. And seeing everyone rave about her next series, The Wings of Blood, I don't think I'm even going to attempt. I gave this book 4 stars. No, 2 stars. I gave the first book 4 stars. I thought it was really fun. This is a romantasy series that is a King Arthur retelling, and how that's put together is really interesting. Some of the elements took a long time to become apparent, and then they were a bit like on the nose in other aspects, but overall I really did like the King Arthur retelling aspect. This book gave very much like middle book syndrome, like we were traveling and nothing was happening, and oh, we found somebody who gave us some information and we're traveling some more sort of vibes, you know what I'm saying? Where nothing is really occurring, and yet this is the series finale. So there were some reveals to try and wrap things up at the very, very tail end of this book that honestly made no sense to me. I felt like Briar Bolin didn't know how to finish the series, and that was very apparent in this last book. We were introduced, was it in this book or the third book, to the main character that is in the Wings of Blood series. But the synopsis of the Wings of Blood series and hearing people talk about it, that character sounds like nothing of the character we got in the Blood of Fae series. Like they don't even seem like the same. and she felt very much like an afterthought in the Blood of Fae series, so I don't know why she had to be introduced here at all. It just doesn't make sense. The worlds seem completely different. Like this, I haven't even looked at all the tropes, so it's like a dragon riding academy something or other, the Wings of Blood series, and this is like a King Arthur retelling with no dragons. I'm just very confused. I had a rough April in terms of reading. I finished it with The Worst Best Man by Mia Sosa. Again, another book that had been on my shelves for a while, and I had heard mixed things on this one, to be fair. I left this feeling meh, like 2.5 or 3-star read. This did have a lot of like funny moments. I can really enjoy a rom-com if the humor hits just right for me, but this one didn't. It did have a lot of like romance cliches and tropes that just seem really overdone. And oh my god, the male narrator in the audiobook was so bad. So bad. But I'm needing to do some audio booking in this day and age to get through some books, and I just did not have time to pick this up physically, but that probably affected my enjoyment as well. After that very like meh streak of books, I was struggling. So when Sam sent me an unhinged reel, was it a reel or a story on Instagram? I can't remember. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's do it. I read 2 I can see your judgy eyes. I read 2 4-page Kindle Unlimited romances, heavy quotation marks, okay? They are both by Colt Alcove. The first one I read was Taken by Canada. I gave this 4 stars. Honestly, I laughed so hard in those 4 pages. It was absolutely ridiculous, but my cheeks hurt from smiling. Like, I will say it was surprisingly well written. It was only 4 pages. The Canadian references in here, I'm Canadian, were spot on. We're talking very literal, like taken by Canada. Like he's into the Canadian land. Okay, anyways, you get the drift. 4 pages long. So freaking funny that I then went on to read Taken by the Lightning Bolt by the same author. Again, 4 pages. This one I gave 2 stars. I didn't find it as funny. It was a bit more on the weird cringe side. I mean, Taken by Canada was too, but I think I just had so much fun with the Canadian references, and I found that one like laugh out loud funny. And this one I was just like, what is going on here? In this one we're following a man who goes outside to hump a metal statue in a thunderstorm, hoping to get struck by lightning. Yep. The other one, a man runs across the border so he can just sink into Canadian dirt. Yep. Okay, moving on. I can't believe I talked about that on the internet. Next we have Anathema by Carrie Lake. Very different vibes. This is a dark gothic fantasy with horror elements. It's the first book in the Eating Woods duology. I don't think the second book is out yet, but I cannot wait for that one. I gave this 4 stars. I love gothic fantasy settings. I have discovered that about myself. The horror elements in here, I am a big baby though, truly scared me, made me uncomfy, wouldn't pick it up for a couple days after a certain scene, like that part, but like it all worked together for the purpose of the story, so that's why I continued with it and overall really enjoyed it. The world is very intriguing, but I feel like there's still a lot to be done here. Sam and I then buddy read Losers Part 1 by Harley LaRue. I give this 4 stars. This is a dark dark. Why choose romance? Probably one of the darkest, one of the spiciest books I've ever read, and not for the faint of heart. I did give this 4 stars. There's a laundry list of trigger warnings in here that you need to pay attention to them. Without getting too much away, we are following Jessica, who was like the popular girl in school. They're like in their mid-20s now. She returns home, she's working remotely and decides to save money by moving back in with her parents, and she's preparing to move to New York, I believe. And we have the 4 losers from school. They were like the alternative kids, the tattoos, the piercings, getting suspended all the time, troubled pasts, all of that. And she bullied them relentlessly in high school. Now she's made a deal. They fix cars, her car needs to be fixed, and she can't afford to pay them to do it. So she decides to become theirs for whatever, until her car is fixed and her debt is paid. This book covers so many wild kinks, into some, really not into many of them, but I found myself not being able to put it down. It's one of those books where you're like reading it and you're not really sure why you're still reading it and why you're having a good time. And then there were parts where I wanted to throw up. Take that for what you will. But we are finishing on a high note with a 5-star. Is this the only 5-star I've had? It's been rough. Wild Love by Elsie Silver. I read this and was just immediately like, yes. Elsie Silver, come hold my hand, come make me feel better. This is the first book in the Rose Hill series set in British Columbia, Rose Hill, British Columbia. And we are following Ford Grant and Rosie Belmont. We have like a single dad, brother's best friend tropes going on in here, and a touch of the grumpy sunshine. Just Elsie Silver does these tropes so well. I can always count on Elsie Silver to deliver a romance that I'm going to love. The humor in this book, I don't know what it was, but it hit just right for me. I found myself laughing out loud, where some books like rom-coms, I can tell that they're funny and I'm enjoying myself, but the humor isn't like quite my sense of humor. And I feel like this hit, I don't know, their banter was everything. The emails, the email signatures, an easy 5-star. So at least we're ending on a high note. But those are all the books I read this spring. Not that many, not as many as I was hoping for talking about 3 months worth of books, but here we are. Let me know if you prefer monthly reading wrap-ups, even if they're shorter, or saving them up for a video like this. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite book you have read recently is. I've been on the struggle bus, but thank goodness for Wild Love to wrap things up. I've been yapping about books for way too long. If you enjoyed today's video, please do give it a thumbs up so that I know, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.